Hello. So today we're going to be opening up a dressing tray. I'm going to do this here on my table so that I can show you all of the important pieces that follow those 8 principles of sterile technique. Okay, so when you guys get your kit, you're going to have in your kit a dressing tray that is within a packaging, the plastic packaging. So all of this outside of this dressing tray is not sterile, so you're able to obviously handle it and touch it. One of your ends should be perforated. So in this case, this end here is perforated, so I can just peel off the end of the plastic, okay? And then I can slide my tray out. Okay, and at this time, you'd want to put your tray down. And the first principle we talked about would be to actually open your tray, putting the first flap away from you. So if you position your tray in front of you, okay, with your flap here, we're gonna pull and we're gonna actually open it away from us, not trying to not stretch our arm over top, okay? And then we're going to carefully, touching just our 1-inch border, open our other 2 flaps, and then you'll notice that you see a pair of forceps. Those are plastic transfer forceps. We talked about it in class, and those would be the forceps you will use when you're actually removing pieces from your sterile tray and from your packages. So just keep in mind that you only want to be able to touch that 1-inch border. It is considered contaminated, so you are able to touch it. You just don't want to touch within your sterile area. So carefully grabbing your transfer forceps, okay? Before I put this last flap down, what I want to do is I want to straighten out my sterile field and make it a square. Right now it's sitting in a triangle or a diamond shape. So I'm going to take my forceps and I'm going to actually hold them in my hand, ensuring that the tips don't touch anything so that they stay sterile. I'm going to pinch another end of my field by the 1-inch border. And before I let this flap down, I'm going to straighten out my field, and then I can let the flap down. Okay, so now I can take my transfer forceps, so the tips are sterile, the ends are now not sterile because I'm holding it with my bare hand. Okay, so I want to position my actual tray so it's easier for me to access. So I'm going to stabilize my field by pinching one corner or one side of that 1-inch border, and then I'm going to take my sterile tipped forceps and grab my sterile tray. And I'm just gonna move it so that it straightens out. I'd like to move it closer to an edge or a corner, but I have to remember I need to stay within that 1-inch border. Okay, so this is positioned appropriately. Now what I wanna do is I wanna actually take out the contents and lay them on the field within my 1-inch border. Okay, this is a sterile dressing tray from a more medical setting. So this, a couple of the contents may look a little bit different than what you're going to be used to, but you will have a sterile drape. You will have swabs to be cleaning with, okay? So we can take the swabs out. You will have metal forceps. So what you want to do is you actually want to set your metal forceps up so that they're easier to grab. So you'll have 2 compartments and 1 large compartment. I would set my forceps up inside those 2 compartments. And then you want to remove everything else out as long as you're staying within your 1-inch border. Okay, so now if I wanted to put my transfer forceps down, the end that is not sterile anymore has to stay outside of my sterile field. So the way that we do this to keep our tips sterile is we keep our tips inside the 1-inch border, but we lay them on the edge so that this half is on the outside where it is not sterile, and the tips are sitting on the inside on the sterile piece. So this is how you would actually open your sterile field. I just want to show you how you would open a dressing package in order to keep it to stay sterile. Okay, just let me grab a sterile package here. So this one here, this is actually a drain sponge. But just to show you, so when you're opening a package, you'll actually look at the whole entire package to ensure that there's no damage, it's not wet, so there isn't any contamination. And when you do open the package, I recommend that you step away from your field, because if you open it on top of your field and you drop the actual package, this outside is not sterile, inside is sterile. So if I dropped this package onto my field, it would contaminate my field. But if I stepped away and I dropped my package, it would only be this particular package that I would have to replace. Okay, so whenever you're opening a package, step away from your field. The top of all of dressing packages kind of have a peel down opening. So see how there's like two flaps, okay? So what we ask you to do is we want you to pull apart those flaps and peel it down, just like a banana, okay? We're gonna peel it down. I want you to fold both sides down and then grab it with one hand. See how I'm doing that? And now in order to get that sterile gauze out and onto my tray, I'm going to pick up my transfer forceps. The tips are sterile. I'm going to touch my sterile gauze and I'm going to lay it down on my sterile field. I'm going to put my tips back down, making sure that they're inside my sterile field. And I'm going to take my garbage and I'm going to dispose of my garbage. So that is the proper way to open your field, keeping in mind all of those proper principles, and that is how you would actually transfer products out of their packaging and onto your sterile field.